the Overman Warrior Podcast.
Hi, it's Rich Hoffman here. Oh, look. And this Tulsi Gabbard thing on the deep state and the biolabs, I said that right away in 2020, that COVID was a bioweapon created. China knew what they were doing. Many never Trumpers knew what they were doing. Dr. Fauci, Bill Gates, they were trying to implement a World Economic Forum platform to shut down emissions, get everybody to stay at home. They used a bioweapon to scare everybody into staying in their house and not driving around. And you had health directors like Amy Acton who fell for it completely, read the memo right off the progressive play sheet, and pretty much shut down our economies and ruined our lives in dramatic ways. And I said from day one, it was a scam. It was a bioweapon. It was released purposely out of China. We're now starting to get where you saw the CIA did cover it up. A lot of people conspired to keep it from the public, just like they do the alien stuff. I've been talking about these species of aliens and these galactic federations and these interactions through history with aliens, ancient alien theories. I've been saying it for decades and decades, and people are like, well, you expect us to trust you on finance talk and big school issues and who we should endorse for political office, but then you talk about aliens and Bigfoot and ghosts and stuff that the big deep state, the big mean deep state said we should not listen to. Well, they also told you the same strategy with COVID. Hey, we're telling you what to do. You had on the corner of all the main news outlets the death count. They were trying to scare everybody into staying home, socially distancing, changing the way they worked and did business and how they went to church. It was a disaster. And they used all the strategies they learned that worked with aliens, the things that concealed the real information. They used the same playbook on COVID. And now, on her way out, Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democrat up until about 5 minutes ago, Tulsi Gabbard told all on what everybody knew, and now there's a Trish Reagan broadcast. Trish Reagan used to be on Fox News all the time. She does her own podcast now. She did a pretty cool little segment on what the significance of Tulsi Gabbard's broadcast was. I'll play it for you here in a moment, but before I do that, for whatever reason in 2026, I don't know if it's because all these things are coming true and people who have listened to me for years used to kind of think, oh, Rich Hoffman's a little crazy. I don't know if I can listen to him. He's interesting. He's a fun guy to go to dinner with because he says a lot of crazy stuff. But, I'm skeptical on whether I can listen to him or not. Well, suddenly it's fashionable to listen to me. So people are buying my books on Amazon, and before they come see me in Cincinnati, they come to my office and they want me to sign the book. And they like to go to my bookshelf that's in my office, and I have hundreds of books in there. And they like to go rifling through them and find books that I have signed by people like J.D. Vance and people like Vivek Ramaswamy and others. I don't normally go out and get everybody I know sign their books. On those occasions, I did get J.D. Vance to sign his Hillbilly Elegy because I liked it. This is before he's vice president. I thought it was significant. It was a Middletown story, and I like Middletown. I want Middletown to succeed. And Vivek Ramaswamy, I've been a part of his creating his platform to rise from a biotech CEO to becoming a major global political figure. So I knew he was going to go do big things before he announced that he was going to run for governor. And he did it at my place of business, coordinated with me. Out of all the places he could pick in Ohio, he did it at my place. And this guy, a very powerful person, came to see me in Cincinnati. A big, high player, came to see me, brought his book, brought a copy of the Gunfighter's Guide to Business with him, and wanted me to sign it because he says, I've been listening to you for decades and you've never been righter than you have been, and all these things are starting to come true, and I'm looking on the news and I'm like, where have I heard that before? It's like, it's Rich Hoffman. Oh, that's that guy in Cincinnati. Yeah, so they bring the book. Can you sign it for me, please, sir? And he wanted to thank me. He says, I appreciate what you've done for Vivek Ramaswamy. And this is a high power player, okay? This guy goes around and like he told me, he says, I voted for Hillary. I voted for Biden. The last time, he's certainly not a MAGA Republican or a Trump guy. He's a guy that has made a lot of money at a very high level and has associated with Democrats, like Trump did, for most of his life. One thing he pointed out on my bookshelf, he got a lot of books on Trump. I said, well, people forget that Trump wrote books well before he was president. I read those books when he was just a guy, and you could go to Trump Tower and ask to go see Trump, and you could go see Trump. I remember when Trump was in a Reform Party with Pat Buchanan, and I'd go to events, and he would go to those events, and you could walk up and talk to him. Very few people showed up to see Trump at those days. This is the 2010s, late 1995. This is before 9/11. Trump was always out there building his platform up, and you could see him and talk to him. Not like now, of course, but this person was a major Democrat. When he came to Cincinnati, wanted me to sign his book because I was so out in front of a lot of things. He was a Biden voter, and I talked to a lot of those kinds of people. They have value for my opinions, and it's always been kind of a gag with them. Rich Hoffman is a crazy guy in Cincinnati. He's got really strong political beliefs, but he knows how to get people pointing in the right direction. So he's a good guy to work with, and that's been the thing. So people put up with the dinner conversation about UFOs and Bigfoot because they want the good stuff that they value. So he came to my office and he thanked me for my support of Vivek Ramaswamy. And when he says support, he had just come from an event with Steve Hilton. So from California, and of course Steve Hilton was at my place when Steve Hilton was thinking about running for governor. I was with him, and that was and so this is how this guy learned about Vivek and where Vivek launched his governor campaign. And so this guy came to see me, wanted me to sign his book, wanted to talk to me and thank me for supporting Vivek Ramaswamy, wanted to know how things are going to go. And I told him what I thought the governor race was going to be like in Ohio, and kind of how it's going down. He went through my bookshelf and wanted to see Vivek Ramaswamy's signature, his autograph. He wanted to see J.D. Vance's because I had Hillbilly Elegy up there, and he wanted to see it and what J.D. Vance had said to me. And then he noticed that I had RFK's book, the Wuhan Conspiracy, the Wuhan Labs book, the Wuhan cover-up, I think it was, done by Bobby Kennedy. And I had just been to D.C., and I had just been, if you haven't been down there, down to the health department, right next to Capitol Hill, things are looking pretty good down there with Bobby Kennedy in that position, a Democrat. And there's a lot of Democrats like this guy who have bled over into supporting the Trump administration because people like RFK are now a part of the Trump administration, and Tulsi Gabbard. People who were former Elon Musk, people who used to be Democrats, have bled over and joined the Big Tent of the Republican Party. This guy being one of them. Not that he's going to go out there and vote for every Republican. Like he told me, he says, Rich, I voted for Biden. I know you think I'm crazy, but I voted for Biden. So I can talk to a lot of people, and I've talked to people who don't even agree with me. And I don't require them to agree with me on everything. I have firm convictions that I don't yield to. But I can sit down with people and have a discussion when they don't agree. Because eventually, like I say, if you're smart, you're going to come away to my way of thinking eventually anyway. So he's noticed on my bookshelf that I had the Wuhan cover-up up there by RFK, and that was talking about way out ahead. This is 2021, 2022. I think that book recently came out, just a couple years ago. But before that one, there was the real Anthony Fauci. And this Biolabs thing was being talked about then. And that was 2 years after I talked about it. As soon as I saw the news reports, I'm like, hey, that's government-sponsored garbage. Same kind of stuff they have with the UFO program. That's why I consider Disclosure Day to be such a big deal. It's the same way the government's lied to us. They learned by watching how we dealt with aliens that they could manipulate things with these bioweapons in these biolabs and control us with fear. And that's what they try to do with COVID. And I knew it right away because I studied the alien conspiracies all those years, and it was the same playbook. So let's listen to Trish Reagan here. This is a really interesting little broadcast. And again, I don't do these things to show you videos. I talk and commentary. My commentary is what people show up for. They want to know what my opinion is on things. But I can say I watch a clip like this, and all I can say is, hey, guys, I told you so. So here it is. I'm kind of enjoying it. Here it goes.
It's a sweet one, right? Deep State in panic right now as Tulsi gives him a big fat kick on the way out the door.
Remember her on Fox News?
This was something. Let me just tell you that she had been saying for years that there are biolabs in Ukraine.
I've been saying it.
And she was criticized left and right by the left. I mean,
Ukraine.
Actually by the right too. You had Mitt Romney coming out against her. And they were all over her, and they were accusing her of doing Russia's bidding, this, that, and the other. And she's like, no, you guys have to take this seriously because there are
Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat.
Labs there that could be weaponized, right? And that's why you got to get a handle on this. And that was her fear with everything that was developing in Ukraine. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, Tulsi Gabbard was right. Watch.
Today I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries.
China,
now, these
Wuhan lab was one of them.
Include labs in places like Ukraine, which could be at risk of compromise due to the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. In fact, the intelligence community had previously warned that a U.S.-funded biolab in Ukraine likely housed dangerous pathogens and remained vulnerable to long-standing threats of Russian attack, seizure, or damage.
That's pretty serious stuff right there.
Data everywhere,
no commercial.
And not an insight to see. It's overwhelming. Customer usage stats, dashboard data.
I mean, wow. Hey, Mitt Romney, did you hear that?
Yeah, Mitt Romney.
Should we play it again for the cheap seats in the back? Mitt.
Mittens.
They're there. They're real, okay? Like, it's not all in our head or in her head. Tulsi Gabbard, he wrote, March 13th, 2022, is parroting false Russian propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives. He's accusing her of treason, for goodness sakes, and she was right. You know, it's like when we said, that virus that caused the entire shutdown in 2020.
COVID.
It came from that lab in Wuhan, China.
Yeah.
And we were all told, okay, we were crazy. We weren't allowed to talk about that.
We
weren't allowed to talk about that there might be some biolabs in Ukraine. Well, turns out there are 120 biolabs supported by all of us, U.S. taxpayers, all around the world. Now, don't you think that might be something you kind of want to monitor, especially in like a war zone like Ukraine? I mean, I think so.
The war is cover for it.
I think so. And I wonder, what was Mitt's
fake,
problem? Like,
fake
why did he?
war.
And by the way, you know who jumped on this big time? All the mainstream media. So if you said anything about there might be biolabs in Ukraine, boom, you got slapped hard because New York Times.
Just like with aliens. You can't talk about aliens.
Media,
There's 4 species of aliens interacting with our government.
Of course, the Biden
You're crazy.
We had Peppermint Patty out there doing her bidding. Well, the bidding of Joe Biden, the bidding of Deep State, the bidding of, I guess, Mitt Romney, not wanting to admit the truth to any of us. Gosh, it's all coming out. Here we go.
Russia has a history also of inventing outright lies like this, which is the suggestion that the United States has a chemical and biological weapons program, or Ukraine does, that they're operating. Russia is the country that has a chemical and biological weapons program. So the objective was to make clear the inaccuracy of the information, the misinformation they're trying to put out, and make clear to the world that they not only have the capacity, they have a history of using chemical and biological weapons, and that in this moment we should have our eyes open for that possibility.
Today I'm releasing new evidence of long-standing U.S. government funding of more than 120 biolabs in over 30 countries.
That's real.
Now, these biolabs include labs in places like Ukraine, which...
Okay. So what was their problem? Like, why were they so upset about her saying this? It's interesting because do you remember when Marco Rubio started pushing Victoria Nuland? She was the woman who specialized in all the intelligence for Ukraine.
I remember this.
He pushed her hard, and well, there were a few ums.
And they were all 2 years behind me.
Under oath, and she couldn't lie. So guess what we heard then?
I only have a minute left. Let me ask you.
He wasn't trying to get her.
Chemical or biological weapons?
He was trying to give her a way out.
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which in fact we are now quite concerned Russian troops, Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
So just to clarify, Tulsi was never talking about weapons. She said they could be weaponized. If we go back to that point in time in 2022, she was just, hammering on and on about you've got all these taxpayer-funded biolabs that are working on things like gain-of-function research all over the world, 120 of them. I saw the question from Peace of My Mind. He's like, what the heck is the U.S. doing in all these biolabs? I have a feeling that, and don't get me wrong, again, because we're all big boys and girls here and we know how the world works, you do actually want your government being able to have intimate knowledge of that stuff ahead of, say, the Chinese government, okay? Like, if I'm picking...
Okay, so anyway, like this guy that came to see me, a lot of people who are realizing, whoa, you said a lot of crazy things over the years and they're all coming true. And I want to be affiliated with you. I want you to sign the book because I want to have it on my bookshelf. And when people come to see me in my office, I want to say, hey, I know that guy and he said this then. And Trish Reagan is certainly a conservative media person. And everybody who, when Tulsi Gabbard came out with this knowledge we all have been talking about, it's validation. So you want to do a little end zone dance a little bit, and that's where Trish Reagan is a little bit. But even people like her and Marco Rubio, who's now Secretary of State, they were a few years behind where I was. And I, at the time, had said a lot of things that were way out on the branch. And anybody who wanted to have a saw and cut off that branch could have, I think they wanted to. And then I was very happy to see RFK's book come out, his books come out, Real Anthony Fauci and the Wuhan cover-up, which lays the case out like a prosecutor in the legalisms, and it was beyond refute. Notice they couldn't sue RFK for those books. Anthony Fauci could not. And it was out there. If Bill Gates could have, with all his powerful, the billions of dollars he has, and hired some attorneys to go after RFK, don't you think he would have? But he couldn't. And that's how I knew the truth was the smoke that we saw was coming from a fire. And it was more than speculation to find out that the biolabs were funded. Gain of function, our own government was involved in it, just like they're involved in all these alien interactions. And it was deep conspiracy, and if you talked about it, they ridicule you as a conspiracy theorist. And they use the same strategy. They used to disqualify people from... Yeah, we're talking to 4 different aliens, and that's how we develop the kind of cool tech that's in your cell phone. That's how we learn to track people all over the world in ways that are beyond. We don't need to put a chip in you because we know how to track your biometrics. We don't need to put a physical chip in you. We're much more sophisticated than that. We learned it from the aliens. So. Biolabs, yeah, to be able to have, at a moment's notice, bioweapons to eradicate your enemies. Certainly that was what was found out in Ukraine. The Ukraine war kind of being a cover story for that kind of behavior. And China, the embarrassing thing with China was China knew it was there in Wuhan, and they wanted to torpedo the Trump economy, and it got out of control. I would say we lost sovereignty of our own research biometrics, biolabs. We lost sovereignty, and it got leaked out. And will the Chinese sacrifice their own people, let them get COVID and spread it on airplanes to get it in the United States and smuggle it in? You betcha they would. I was at that exact time when the COVID was being released. I was at a very crowded airport doing a conference call. I was doing a Teams call in the Frontier concourse in Orlando, where the flights were all overbooked, and there were people as far as you could see, and it was very hard to do my conference call in that environment. And it was about 2 weeks before we found out there was COVID in January 2020. So I knew, I thought then, boy, if someone wanted to send in some sort of dangerous disease, this would be the place to do it, this airport. And of course, that's exactly what China was thinking. Crowd airports that are overbooked, on overbooked flights, where people are all congregated together, sneezing on each other. That's a great place to get sick. And I think I caught a cold, just a common cold on that trip. I came back feeling pretty bad for a couple days after. Somebody definitely gave me a sniffle in that crowded concourse. There were people sleeping in the windows, on all the seats. There were people laying on the floor. As I was doing my Teams call on a headset, I had to step over people to keep from tripping over them. And my wife and I spent a little time at there's some restaurants down there. We went and got some food while this was going on. And at the time, we didn't know COVID was coming, but we had a feeling that it was. And as soon as it hit, I'm like, okay. Anybody with half a maniacal brain could have figured out that's the way to smuggle in a bioweapon into the country, is through some people, Chinese people, coming to visit Disney World, and you go to a crowded place like that, and suddenly it's in the States, and they can do it with any kind of weapon. The thing about COVID was it was genetically engineered through gain of function to jump from animals to humans, and under normal circumstances, our immune system will defend against it. So that means everything that Amy Acton put out, all that nonsense, she had to have known at the time, and she outright lied to people. So did Brashear in Kentucky, and so did Gavin Newsom, and a bunch of Democrats. Amy Acton was a Democrat. DeWine was trying to show that he could play well with Democrats, so he put her in his administration. And then when she came up with COVID policy, it was basically her telling him straight out of the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, straight from the notes of Dr. Fauci, shut down the state, don't let people go to church, and shut down businesses. Lock the state down so you don't spread this stuff. When just a month prior, you had busy airports like the one I talked about in Orlando, where that virus is already coming into the States, probably at that popular airport in Orlando. It was probably there on an overbooked flight where the Chinese act of terror was designed to do its most damage. Because if you're an evil person and you know that all these bioweapons plants, biolabs are functioning within your state, you just take it over and then utilize the weapon for your own advantage. And the reason why America's developing all these other countries is because they thought they couldn't, the regulations prevent it from happening in the States. So they go to somewhere that's underregulated, like China, like Ukraine, and then you use a war to cover it up. Keep everything all stirred up so nobody can ever find out what you're really doing. But we found out, and that's what I said when COVID came out. I said all this, and now it's coming out that I was 100% right. And this guy flew into Cincinnati, wanted to come see me at my office, and he saw I had the RFK book on my bookshelf, along with all the other big books, and it's always a topic of conversation, is my books are on my bookshelf. I have a lot more books at home, but I keep some of my favorites in my office, so it provokes conversation. And this guy, who was a Biden voter and a Hillary Clinton supporter, wanted to tell me, hey, thanks for all the work you're doing for Vivek Ramaswamy. You let him come to your place and announce his governorship, and you're not run away from him, even in a toxic woke environment in the industry, manufacturing industry, and you put your arms around him and embrace him, and I think that takes a lot of courage, and I want to thank you for it. Will you sign your book? Because I want to tell people I know you. Yeah, okay, here, I'll sign it for you. Here you go. Did you get a steak yet? You want to go to Jags? You know, Jags sounds great for an early dinner. Let me see if I can get us a reservation at a nice table. But, you know, those kinds of steaks taste really good when people are all of a sudden, people you know were calling you crazy a few years ago are all of a sudden saying, hey, sign your book. I want to tell people I know you. Because you are way ahead of this stuff. Yeah, I was. And I'm very proud of it. And yeah, Trish Reagan, nice job coming into it. And good broadcast. But Tulsi Gabbard, you know, she's resigning because she knows the guns are coming after her. She was a Democrat that converted into Trump's Republican Party. Love to have her. Welcome. And yeah, there's Biolabs, and you know, you're going to drop this bomb before you leave and resign because you know that they're coming after you. But good job telling them things that people needed to know. And it's not something that is new to me. People watching these broadcasts that I do know I was literally the only one at the time saying this stuff. Now everybody's saying it. And that's, I think, the case with just about everything. Live and learn, everybody. Anyways, Rich Hoffman here. Share, subscribe, make tomorrow a better day. If you ever read my book, The Gunfighter's Guide to Business, I think you'll love it. Anyway, have a good day. See you later.
In the age of disclosure, you must understand the politics of heaven. Coming soon.
Coming soon. The politics of heaven in 2027. A treasure hunt through heaven and all human history.